I'm going to start today just by kind of going over some of the main differences in the UI, because I know that in the user interface, I know that many of you have already used the product, and so you're not necessarily new to the concept of how we build recipes in our software, but more so kind of the UI and maybe some of the differences and the differences in the features there. So some of the main differences, and I'll show you as I get in here, but I just wanted to speak to them first. Some of the main differences are that you now add items and add groups up on the top right here. You also select to edit instead of having it just be kind of a pencil icon on the top right there. It's got a whole button that labels, and it's labeled. So this would be how you would edit item groups, item group names, reorganize them, delete them, remove them, what have you. You just press the button and then make your edits and save. You can now add groups from up there as well instead of being embedded in the list. And you would add menu items by pressing this add menu item button. So for this example, we can add multiple items now with the new UI. So I would just press add menu item here, and I would select which group it is. So I'm going to add a few menu items here because I'm going to build out the breakfast portion of my menu. So for this example, I can just select breakfast. I can type what it is, 2 eggs and sausage, my price, moving on. Next thing, breakfast, 2 eggs and bacon. Let's see here, we can put in waffles, let's say 5.49, pancakes, also 5.49, breakfast, let's just go with fruit. Let's see, 5.99. So we can save that. So we can build menu items in bulk. Now we can also say we got our pricing wrong or title typed out something wrong. We can also edit these items here after we've created them from that edit button, top right. So you'll see that this becomes an editable field in price, and the name becomes editable as well. And then we also have the 3 bars here that we can use to drag and drop to reorganize if we want them to be in a different order on our screen. This is also where you can copy a menu item. So now, instead of being able to use a recipe to make a recipe, when you search, what you do if you're trying to copy a recipe is you would go here, you would press that edit menu button on the top right, then you go to the thing you're trying to copy. So for example, waffles, I want to make waffles with fruit. So I'm going to press this copy button, and I can now make waffles with fruit, and I can duplicate it, and I can adjust that price to reflect the cost of adding fruit to this dish. Now I would press save changes, and I would essentially, anything that I put into waffles, I would copy. I would now have a copy of that with waffles with fruit. So let's go ahead and get started by making one of these examples here. And so now to add ingredients into a recipe, you would click on the more arrow on the far right side of the screen here, and we will just jump right in. So it's still essentially the same functionality where you search for the ingredient, you add the ingredient in, but now it's up here on the right, it's add ingredient to a recipe. Now you're going to see that you have a category filter for your ingredients, and you have your ingredient list here that you're working from. So you can still search, or you could always use your category as well if you'd like to do it that way. Eggs extra large, 2 each. We also now have create recipe conversion, and I'll show you in just a moment how this comes into play, because this is this is a new feature where it's an embedded conversion calculator or creator, sorry. So if you find out once you're in the recipe, you're not able to use the unit of measure you'd like, you can create a conversion so that you could. So you can also see on this screen that there's a difference here in that we're showing you the supplier products that are tied to eggs extra large, and those details here. So we'll add the ingredient there, and it'll tell you that it's added to it. And now we can add our next ingredient. This one I'm actually adding sausage. So let's see, we do have the link. So I'm going to add 2 each for my links. But in this case as well, I can see that I have a pack size that I needed to clean up with my new purchases. So it looks like my 1 each is actually an entire case here. So I'm going to actually go back to the search and use the other Hatfield link here. And I'm going to add 4 ounces. Sorry, 2 ounces, because I can see my pack size this information I have below, I have 1 ounce links. So I just want 2 eggs, 2 links, can add ingredient. And that is the basic functionality here with the new one. So we can see it, we can still see all the same food cost percentage. We can see what our price is. If we wanted to make our base cost editable, we would press edit menu item here. This is where we could also, while we're creating the recipe, adjust the price or the base cost. And we can save it there, and that way you can also change it, the organization of it from being what is defaulted as alphabetical to the prep order, or to cost if you would rather see it organized by what is driving the cost of this item or this menu item. So now, instead of having the food cost trend embedded on the screen on the lower part of the screen, you're able to click on food cost trend as a menu option up here on top. So on this screen, you'll see the cost of all of your ingredients, the trend of your ingredients if prices have gone up or gone down. Then you'll see it below that separated into each ingredient. You'll also see this corresponding chart on the right of that, this bar graph here, where it's showing you the portion of each ingredient of the total cost. And you can see that week over week with the trend there. You're able to see the purchases of these ingredients, or the ingredients that are in these recipes, displayed below. So if I were to get a purchase tomorrow, for example, of either of these products, we would then see that listed here with item code, supplier description, the supplier, and the purchase information, replacing what we have are currently listed here. So this is just sort of a new view, a little bit more in depth than the previous interface. Whereas the previous interface, it was embedded here on the recipe screen down below. The recipe screen down below now is dedicated to the entire notes section. The notes section itself has also become more of a word format type note section, where you can hit in anything, you can add bullet points, number points, you can actually add a picture, and you're able to create detailed notes or recipe instructions for your products here. One thing of note, though, is when you create those notes and you do go to print your ingredient from this top right print button, this is not formatable. But had we had notes there and a picture displayed, it would be on this screen as well, just on the lower part here. This recipe printing would also be where it would benefit to put it in prep order, because then you could see it listed in prep order on your screen here. So that's kind of the main functionality different there, but then we'll build in recipes, and I'll show you how the embedded conversion button works, because I know that that's a big difference. Related to conversions, you'll notice that there's a separate conversion section on the side. So if you are an existing customer and you've already built out conversions as recipes, they are going to stay there at the moment. They haven't migrated, and I do not believe we have intent to take them or migrate them. But you are able to still use them in your recipes with the same functionality, where you search for it, you would see your conversion named, and you'd be able to use that. So for recipes, it's kind of the same functionality as the last interface, but it's a little bit different in the sense that the toolbar is up on the right here. So we're going to add group. So for this particular example, I'm just going to say sauce prep is the name of my group. I'll press save. Now I have a menu item group, or I'm sorry, a recipe group, but I have nothing added to it. So I'm going to add recipe item. So I'm going to select the group just like I did with the menu items, but now with recipes. And I'm going to say roux, because I use roux in multiple batches. So I'm going to just select my yield for my roux recipe that I'm creating. I'm going to add another recipe as well. I'm going to select sauce prep. I'm going to say bechamel, my yield for my bechamel. I'm going to put in here, and then I'm just going to save. So now I'm going to build them out just the same as I did on that menu items page, but now inside of recipes. So I'll press over here on more. I'll go up to add ingredient. I'll search for the ingredient I'm wanting to add in here. So my butter. I'm going to put in 1 pound of butter. And because it's 1-to-1 by weight, I'm also going to put in 1 pound of flour. And then I have my roux recipe. Now I can add my details in if I want for instructions, or if I'm just using it for costing functionality, I can also just leave it just like that. But I'm just going to say melt butter, blend in flour and cook till blonde and sandy textured. Publish my changes. Now, if I were to print that, again, it would look just like this. So now I can click back to my recipes. I can click to my bechamel now, and I can build out my bechamel recipe. So again, I'm going to add to my recipe. I'm going to be using roux. So I can click to my recipes, click roux. Because my yield is in pounds, I can use it by pound, ounce, or gram. Now I want let's see, half pound of my roux. I'll add that in. And now I also want to add ingredients. Milk, I'm going to go with 2 gallons of milk. How about salt? I'll add salt. Well, I don't want to put in a pound, ounce, or gram, even though I buy it by pound. So here in this example would be something I want to create a conversion recipe for. So to create a conversion while you're in a recipe, if you're not given the pack size that you want to, or I'm sorry, if you're not given the unit of measure you'd want to use for your ingredient, but your pack size does look accurate and good listed below here, what you do is you'd press create recipe conversion. So now I'm going to use a standard recipe conversion if I'm turning it into something like a cups, a grams, and each if it's a classic unit of measure. But if I wanted to create my own unit of measure or something that says like a leaf or a slice or a pinch or a scoop, I could do custom measurement. But in this particular example, I'm trying to use 2 tablespoons. So that would be a standard conversion. So I'm going to click on my standard conversion here. And what am I trying to create a conversion for? Well, I'm trying to create it to a volume conversion from weight. So in this particular circumstance, I'm going to select a volume measurement. So I'm going to select cup. So now I want to make 1 cup. So I can see that I'm currently have my options as pound. So I'm going to say 1/4 pound equals my 1 cup. So my 4 ounces equals my 1 cup. Now you could put whatever it is that you know this conversion to be, but this is where you're going to create that conversion so that the system knows how to break that pound out into a volume measurement. So once we've done that, we press that add button or that create button, we have a conversion. So now when I go to use this kosher salt, see how instead of just pound, ounce, and gram, I now have all of my measurements. So I'm going to use 2 tablespoons now. Add ingredient, and the system is now referencing the conversion that I had just created to give us that price for that salt. If I wanted to add a base cost, if I wanted to edit my yield, I can now do that with the edit recipe button here. I can also delete this if it's not used in any other ingredients or any other recipes by pressing this delete menu item or delete menu recipe button here. So I can go ahead and make another conversion here just to kind of show us what that works. So for that one, we did it in the menu items, but for this one, we can also do it on our conversions page as well. So we can just press create new conversion. I'm going to search bib lettuce butterhead bib here, and I'm going to go with a custom recipe measurement this time because I want to turn my bib lettuce from 1 head to however many leaf. So for this one, I'm going to say, what do I name my custom measurement? So leaf, or I guess bib leaf lettuce, and that's going to be 5 of an each, and I'll save my conversion. And that's going to tell me that my lettuce is my recipe, my conversion recipe here is, for 1 leaf, it is 0.05 of 1 head of lettuce. Now I could always change that. I could edit it here. When I go to my recipes here and I create a new recipe, I'm going to say LTO or something like that. And my yield will be 1 each. I'll save and I'll add details. Oh, now I'll be able to add that conversion in here. Now I'll be able to use as a leaf as well. So 1 leaf, I can add my ingredient there. And it can cost it. I'll create a new conversion. How about let's do it again with onions for a slice of onion. Yellow onions, custom measurement, onion slice. 1 slice is going to be 0.05 of a pound. I'll save my conversion. Now I can use whatever measurements I wanted there. I just did 0.05 of a pound because it was simple to type out, but I could select gram, I could select ounce, whatever it is that's derived from that initial product pack size is what I can use there. So then I can go to my recipes here. I can add into my LTO my onion. So I can now search onion. It's the yellow onion I built the conversion for. It's now in the dropdown that I can use an onion slice. Add ingredient here. So that's the main adjustment to the functionality in our product here is having that embedded conversion creator there. It's intended to hopefully not make it so you have to click out of a recipe you're building, click back over to a different recipe, create a conversion recipe, then go back to what you were building, and then add in that conversion that you created. So hopefully this should help to speed up that process. So again, to add an ingredient into a recipe, if you're not in the recipe, you essentially click on the recipes. You would see your groups listed, and you can also see your recipe titles. You click more on the corresponding the right side there on the little arrow, and then we add ingredient or recipe. So for this example, I'm going to add ingredient. I'm going to add tomato to finish the LTO here. So I'm going to use my standard tomatoes. So I'm going to click on them. I see that I have a 5x6 tomato. It's $35. Its case is what I have as my pack size. But I just want to use one tomato and I want to use it as slices. So for this, I could do two different conversions, right? I can convert my case into actual eaches. So I'm going to do conversions here. And then I'm going to do with there are no more, because it's a case, I don't have a standard conversion that I can add. I have to adjust my pack size from case first. So I can't use a conversion to change my pack size. So for that, I'm going to go to my kitchen ingredient list here for these tomatoes standard, and I'm going to adjust that pack size to make it accurate for what I'm going to be able to do. So I'll search for my ingredient. I'll pull up this item. This is the one I want to change my pack size on. So I'll select the item. Now I'll edit pack size, 130 each. So I'm going to press update pack size here. Now this is another change to the interface. And granted, today's call is a little bit more about recipes and menu items, but in this particular interface, when changing pack size now, we didn't previously have this price filter to show us items with the similar pack size. 5.6 here. We have 130 eaches. I'm going to update my pack size. So now I can see here, I've got my pack size updated. It's telling me my price per tomato, but I'm going to go back to my recipes. I'm going to go to my LTO. I'm going to go in, I'm going to add ingredient again. I'm going to search for my tomatoes, my standard tomato here. So I have one each, but what I want to do is I actually want to create a conversion recipe. So I'm creating a custom measurement in this particular circumstance because I'm creating a slice. Now I could say it's actually a number 6 on the slicer or something like that. Some sort of indication that tells me what it is, and that way it's a consistent slice. But I'm also determining that how much of one tomato this is. So one number 6 slice of tomato is one, let's say it's a 0.15 of the actual tomato. Then I'm going to save conversion. So now when I add my tomato, I should be able to use my number 6 slice. I can add ingredient. So that is the conversion process. So what you're doing is you're creating that measurement. So these were all custom measurements here. Now I can create another conversion as well, just to kind of help show the other side of it where it's a standard conversion. So for our menu items, let's just build a burger because I know that I'll create a conversion in that. So I'm going to go into burgers. It's going to be XYZ burger. I charge $9.89 for it. I'm going to save. I'm going to add details. And that's going to pull up right to this menu item screen. So now I'm going to add ingredient to a recipe. And in this particular circumstance, I'm going to add that LTO I just created. So I'm going to add one each of that. So to do it, I clicked to recipe and I saw my recipes listed. Now I'm going to go back to ingredients. I'm going to pull up my bun, a hamburger bun. I have one each of those. I'm going to pull up my beef. So I can see that I have all my products with this word in it listed here. So I know that it's my patty. I'm going to pull one of each of those. And now I'm going to add salt. I season it. So salt will be one that I'm going to make a standard conversion for, or I just did for the bechamel, so I already have it in here. So we'll just do 1 teaspoon of salt, add ingredient. But now that we've built those items out, we can see that they price all the way across into our system here. All right, well, thank you all for your time today. Please, if you have any questions about any of this, feel free to reach out in the messenger here, or feel free to reach out to any member of the team that you're comfortable reaching out to. More than happy to cover anything in here again.